Hello, and welcome back to Somewhere on the Spectrum. I'm glad to be back. To be honest, I didn't accomplish nearly as much as I had wanted to while I was away, but perhaps that's not very surprising. Next week, I want to talk more about what I was doing and what I am still doing, but for now, suffice to say, yay, a new special interest. This week, I wanted to take some time to pause and reflect on why Christmas and New Year can be so stressful for neurodivergents. I think maybe many of us perhaps, feel ashamed about this time. We might feel guilty for meltdowns. We might feel that we struggle with small talk conversations, that we perhaps don't even want to be with or around family. So what's going on? First thing to recognize is that neurodiversity flows through families. So historically, it was hit and miss how people coped, which means that whenever we have a gathering of us all, some of which will be neurotypical, some of whom will be neurodiverse, some of whom will have trauma experiences, CPTSD, many of whom will have not been raised or grown up or lived in a world that accepts them for who they are, then it's pretty common for us to see trauma responses and chaos. That's the first thing. We're going to come back to that. Second, many of us might cope with life by having quite strong routines and sticking with our favorite food preferences. And around Christmas and New Year, all of that disappears. Not good, not good. Third, many of us may struggle in social situations. We might easily get bored of small talk. We might not want to face people who are rude or mean or who don't share our values. Fourth, in addition to the routine changes, many of us have to go somewhere else to visit or stay with family or friends or whatever. And this can be a sensory nightmare. The bed is always wrong, whether it's the pillows or the sheets or how hot or cold it is or the just spring or not spring, or it's not our bed. So it's never going to be good. There are ticky clocks everywhere. Why do people like the tick, tick, tick? It's a mystery. They're always banished from any room that I'm staying in. Everyone uses the big light. I have the big light on right now. I already am angry at it. It's my fault though, because I was procrastinating about making my videos, so I missed the daylight. So this is not the usual setup. And things might smell weird or be too hot or too cold for us. That's already a lot to be dealing with. In general, I think that many of us adult autistics have, to some extent, tried to kind of curate our homes to help us cope with life. If you don't think you have, consider how to start, because I think this can really increase your spoons. This is a project that I started last year, and it's definitely not finished. I don't know that it ever can finish in this house, frankly, but even the changes that I have made the house a much nicer place to be in and calmer place for me. So definitely worth doing. When the Christmas period starts, many of our coping strategies are undermined or erased, and many of our systems and safe spaces are invaded. Sometimes by neurodiverse family members who have their own needs, routines, and challenges, and often by neurotypical people who have no sympathy or interest in your autism and can't see why you can't just get on with it like everyone else, which is exhausting. So at this time, I would say it's more important than ever that you find ways to support yourself, to manage your stress, to reduce your sensory input, to limit your socialization. By considering yourself first, you can pave the way for a nicer time for everybody. The other thing to bear in mind is that we are all individual, and even more so at this time when family situations make it really kind of a very unique situation that you're going into and create unique challenges. I can't tell you all of the things to do to fix the problem because every situation is unique. So instead, you are the expert in this situation. You know what's coming. So think about how can you best prepare for the situation. Some of us might decide to go no contact with family members. We might decide to go away on holiday instead of going to a family gathering. Or we might decide to limit our visits, whether in the time or how many visits we have with particular family members. And this is absolutely fine. You are within your rights to withdraw your attention to protect yourself. Do not guilt trip yourself about that. People will guilt trip you. You don't have to take that. You can say, that's your problem, not my problem. Don't guilt trip yourself. You are right to protect yourself. And the reason why I say that, I mentioned earlier about these situations, you're going into family situations where there could be other people with neurodiversity there. It's important to recognize that while we might be on this journey of self-discovery and it's helping us, many family members can't or won't come with us. For me, I know several older, we're talking boomers, who really don't want to know. They don't want to know if they're neurodiverse. They don't want to know what that means. They don't want to change anything. They don't want to do anything differently. They don't want to accept what that means for the family, or that means for me, or what that means for them. Arguably, they don't want to even improve the situation. So even if I know things, strategies, systems that would help them improve their lives, they don't want it. It's all too scary. It's all too much. And for quite a few of them, it's bound up in emotional trauma that comes from when they were a child. They built coping mechanisms to cope with that emotional trauma, and they are not willing to look at the trauma, and they're not willing to change their coping mechanisms. So when you've got these kind of people in your family, you can choose, of course, if they're really destructive, you can choose to go no contact. But it's very okay if you don't want to do that, if you do want to keep them in your lives, if you do want to keep being around them, and perhaps it's not that much of an impact for you and it's fine. But that's the reason that I say it's important and okay to prioritize yourself. Because the reality is you can't fix everyone. Everybody has to make their own choice in whether they want to develop, whether they want to learn about who they are and what that means for them. And you can't make that decision for them. There's nothing you can do about that. You do you, basically. It's okay to prioritize yourself. I see it as not passing on generational trauma. In the process of me not passing on generational trauma, I am actively resisting joining in. I'm actively resisting the expectations people have of me. So at Christmas time this year, I didn't talk to everyone that I was supposed to talk to because there was a limit. I would say Christmas for me is the time that I have the least spoons of the whole year. So it's really, really hard for me then to use those spoons on social stuff, especially if I feel that those social connections are not appreciated or the people are not my favorite. I hope, despite everything, that you did, in fact, have a lovely Christmas and New Year. Whatever decisions you made, I heard from some friends some lovely ideas. Some were not decorating their house. I didn't decorate my house this year. It's the first time ever. I was actually okay with it. Another friend decorates her house for like solstice. She decorated her house really more around like a solstice theme. Some people were commenting that actually they really loved the lights, but not anything else. So they put the lights up and left everything else. Love that. And one of the ladies I know just went away for 2 weeks on a coach trip around Europe. Genius, absolute genius. So there are lots of options out there. And I think more and more people are choosing to change the tradition. And I know in my own family, the mere suggestion that we change tradition, not going down very well. We'll see. We'll see in a few years. Things might be a little bit different, but don't feel like you have to follow everybody's traditions just because they say so. It's your life too. It's your Christmas too. Whatever's going to make you feel happy, whatever's going to make you feel safe and help you enjoy this time of year, do that. Do that. Anyway, this time of year is over. That was a month ago. It's all over. Everything's changed. We've moved on. I hope you had a great time. Let me know your tips in the comments for how you survived Christmas. Let me know if anything kicked off and like how you managed to cope with it. But if you have coping strategies or things that you're deciding you're going to do in future, please do let us all know in the comments. And I will see you next week. Bye.